Welcome once again to an episode of The Embedded, where we explore the space between the glass and the technology. Today we're talking to Anthony DiPrizio, the Director of Technology for Inwindow Outdoor. Welcome, Anthony.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. So tell us about yourself.
Sure. So at Inwindow Outdoor, I'm the Director of Technology. I've been working in the digital signage and advertising space for roughly 10 years, originally from Boston, Massachusetts. Grew up on Cape Cod, Massachusetts. Went to school at MIT in Boston. Recently moved to England for about 2.5 years, and then I just moved to New York about 9 months ago via Steve Bernhack, the CEO of Inwindow Outdoor, to help grow the digital team here, as we've seen a big push in interactive advertising in our space.
Cool. Wow. So a little bit more about what it is exactly that Inwindow Outdoor does.
Sure. So traditionally it's an outdoor advertising company. The roots of the company started with posters, fly posters and windows, trying to monetize vacant retail units. From there it grew into printed vinyl and covering the entire facade of a building front. And then from there went to digital video, basically looped video. And now we're at the interactive stage. So part of the building will be wrapped in vinyl for an advertisement, and then we'll have a section cut out for interactive digital advertising.
So interactive technologies have really changed your business then?
Absolutely. I think the way of looped video and digital signage is sort of over, and people are realizing that the relevance excuse me, isn't nearly as important as engaging a user. From one standpoint, the dwell time in advertising is very important, but from another, the user experience is much more rich and detailed.
So we understand what it is Inwindow does, but what is it specifically about your solution that differentiates you and makes you different?
I think traditional advertising on television isn't really relevant anymore. I think the only time people really get excited to watch advertisements is during the Super Bowl, right? Mm-hmm. So you've got these three spaces. You've got the first space, which is your home life, your second space, which is your work life, and then you have your third space, everything in between. And that's where we come in, this third space that's becoming much more relevant. People are out more. Advertisements can be skipped on television, and you just sort of pass them by, and they're very mundane. And somewhere like Times Square, that might be really in your face. As our solution is a little bit more elegant in that it's fun, it's engaging, it's interactive, obviously, and it's something that's new. And that impression that you get in the time people spend using our advertisements or playing with them is extremely high, I think, because there's a richness of the experience there, which goes far beyond something that's completely not targeted like television. They go off of ratings that really aren't relevant anymore. And our solution is much more fun in that we've collected enough information to know what's relevant and what people like to interact with and what makes it fun. And we're also promoting the brand at the same time.
Right. So why is this important to your customers?
I think, in the creative world, you obviously have to think outside the box a little bit. A lot of things have already been done. In our sense, I think we're still scratching the surface. I think we have a long way to go, and this industry is very excited. It's a great space to be in, but traditional looped video, as I mentioned before, really isn't engaging. So I think it's important that you try and do something different to really create a lasting impression. Again, not just from the brand promotion, but from a sort of well-being part, that you feel good, you did something fun, and then you can take something that's almost tangible, even though it's virtual, with you from the social media side. You might go up to one of our ads and it might morph you into an avatar character.
Cool.
And then you can then email that or put it on Facebook, and then it becomes a whole social experience, and it generates a lot of buzz. And that's much more intuitive and engaging than just a generic video ad.
Right. So who gets to see this? Where do we get to see this?
All over the country.
Yeah.
I think we certainly have plans to bring it internationally as well. We have hundreds of locations all around the country that will put these in. Major markets are big sort of bread and butter, naturally. But it's everywhere. It's on the street, and that's another great thing. Billboards are very far. They're big, but you have to look, and that's great and all, but this is very much on the street level. It's something that's very engaging. So you'll see it just around major cities or sometimes even small towns.
Wow. So how do the brands engage with you?
In terms of the sales process,
Yeah.
Sure. So typically we'll get a phone call. Actually, there's some clapping happening. This means a deal probably just closed.
Yeah.
Typically a brand will come to us, and obviously we have some great business relationships just from generally being in business. They'll come to us and say, look, we have an idea. We have this movie, and this is the premise of the movie. And then from there, we'll go to the creative team and say, okay, let's come up with a concept. What's cool? I'm thinking of one specifically right now was Rango that we recently did it's a Johnny Depp movie about a chameleon. That was all the information we got. So our digital team went and said, okay, what's the, what are the characteristics of a chameleon? They blend in their environment. So we created a real-time engine to make people basically disappear in real time.
Wow.
So in terms of that, when we go back to the studio and say, this is what we've got, great. We wouldn't have really connected the dots there. So. Great. There's a great synergy between all of the departments here, from operations to sales to the digital team, the programmers, and that helps sort of lubricate the situation, make it very natural to process. And I think that's why brands keep coming back to us.
So it's a combination really of the great ideas and the creativity and a bunch of new technology that put together to create amazing new experiences for people that I guess it gets them closer to the brand. It's better brand connections.
Absolutely. Well. I think, again, the lasting impression. I always go back to the Super Bowl thing because how many times does somebody say after the Super Bowl, did you see that commercial?
Yeah.
A lot of times we get people who just email us and say, what you're doing is great. And I'll have friends who will just be chatting, if we're out at a bar or something. Oh, I saw this advertisement. I'm like, that's us. There's sort of a great feeling behind that, right? That you're leaving this lasting impression.
Yeah.
And, that is what advertising likes to do. But again, from the personal side, it's a much more intimate interaction. So there's a connection there that's being made.
Cool. So when we talk about the embedded layer, one of the keys that I love to think about is that technology is allowing us to personalize our experiences more and more. And the more personal our experiences are, the more we fall in love with our devices. The more we fall in love with whatever we're having that experience with. And it seems to me that what you're doing is personalizing a person's experience with advertising, through the use of new technology and your creative team. So how far do you go in that personalization, and what kind of technologies do you use to do that?
I think in the sense technology's gotten really, really good, and it's continuing to get better. We use a lot of things like 3D cameras and multi-touch solutions on grandiose scales, just massive scales. A newer technology that's gaining a lot of momentum is audience measurement. It's something we're starting to use. We just recently used it on a campaign. And the idea is that there's a camera, and the camera detects the user, age, race, gender, and plays a very specific targeted advertisement to that person. So you're seeing what's most relevant. Obviously, there's the privacy side of it, but luckily the technology doesn't keep any of the images, just the binary data, male 1, female 0, gender neutral 2, whatever it might be. And that's really interesting because then you get into a personalized space. So everybody talks about, the new pushes to the cloud and everything's going to travel with me. As we're in an experience like this, it's sort of on that same methodology that why would I want to see something that's not relevant? I care much more about, ice hockey than I do about purses. So why shouldn't I see an experience that tailors to that need? And I think that's going to become sort of a standard as time goes and it becomes an accepted medium. So that's a newer technology we're working with. We're doing a lot with gesture control. Obviously, the Microsoft Kinect is a big push. It's a 3D camera, so we use a lot of those technologies to achieve some of the really cool things that we're doing.
Very cool. So what's next? What can you tell us is down the road?
I think bigger, brighter, better, faster, stronger is what we're always pushing for. I think it's fun. We constantly have our backs against the wall, and somebody will say, well, "You just can't do it," and that's certainly what we strive off of. And we do a really good job of making sure that we explore every possible avenue, put in a lot of time, a lot of effort into making things work that traditionally probably shouldn't work. And it's fun. Everybody here is a tinkerer. Everybody likes to achieve these big projects that necessarily might not be achievable in certain situations. We squeeze every bit of CPU power out of our CPUs and GPUs and all of that. So I think as that technology evolves, we'll evolve with it because we're always looking for the next best thing. Sure. We have a lot of great ideas. The hardware is a little bit behind for us in what we want to do, but I think it's not too far away. So I think we'll be looking to go bigger. And then get into a whole ecosystem as well, and having a lot of these devices really talk to each other, not just in the sense from a monitoring and we know what they're doing, but truly exchanging information. And I think that's when you get into a really fun ecosystem. And if I go to one screen and I go to the next one, it sort of remembers what type of interactions I'm looking for. I don't think that's too far off either.
Yeah, that's fascinating. That's amazing. Some of the stuff even just you were showing me today, there's something about the sheer size. When you have something so immersive and so creative in front of you that's that big, it feels like magic. It's amazing.
I think, in behind the scenes, there is a lot of magic that goes into
Sure.
it. Naturally, there's a fair amount of equipment, and we use some really high-end stuff to achieve the brightness that we need to attract people. But it's great. It stops you in your tracks anytime you see it on the street, which I don't know really of any other medium that does that.
Exactly.
So it's certainly an interesting take on advertising. But the other side of it is it's sort of an art form as well.
Right.
It goes beyond just advertising. It's the experience that's really important.
I love it. It's been a pleasure. It's been a privilege to see everything here. Thank you so much for joining us.
Yeah, no, thank you very much.
Awesome.
Appreciate it.
Okay, so that's a wrap. That's it for another episode of The Embedded. You'll find us at www.weareembedded.com. Come join the conversation and join us again.